me this. Are they boning me?
No, they're saying boo. Brothers. Boo. Brothers.
Are you saying boo or boo?
Brothers.
And look at this. Welcome back. Another episode of This Is Wrestling. Lee Versage, Zach McGibbon. Zach, just talked to you a couple of days ago, but lots going on in the world of professional wrestling, including the debut of the WWE and Monday Night Raw on Netflix. We thought it was important enough to have another edition. No, not a Hulk Hogan sighting. That wasn't important enough. But there were other important things. Zach, how are you today on a Thursday, getting to talk to me for the second time in a week?
That's right. Couldn't get enough of you, Lee. I said I need a second day of Lee when it comes to recording this week, but I'm doing pretty good. I'm sure it's like where it is over where you're at. It is very cold here in the Quinte region, hitting minus 25 in terms of wind chills. We haven't hit 30 yet, but we'll see. So it's pretty cold, so I'm glad to be in here, bundled up, and ready to go and get fired up for this review of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, it's I think, I'm not sure if we got to minus 30, but I think we got pretty close. Minus 28, minus 29, something like that. It's been a chilly week. That's for sure. But again, as you said, twice in a week, we're gonna heat things up. Netflix, Monday Night Raw. And look, we talked about it on Monday and some of the things that we thought, might happen and how big it was. Before we get into the specifics of, the matches and what happened, let's get into what you thought. The opening, how it came across. Was it pixelated for you? Some of the things that you worry about with a Netflix broadcast, the opening, all of that stuff. How'd you feel about how we were introduced to the WWE on Netflix?
Well, I will say from a technical standpoint, in terms of the stream, it worked perfectly good for me. I had no drops. I had no cutouts or anything like that. It was a good, clean stream. So I got to give them thumbs up on that for giving me a clean stream. I was a little worried about that heading in. I know that the NFL playoff games worked out well, but, in the past, Netflix had some issues with some of their other live events that they tried to do. But I will say it was much better from a technical aspect. Production, I was expecting it to be relatively the same in terms of the look. Maybe a couple of tweaks here and there, because we always know with WWE, and I might argue it's a little bit overproduced at times, but it will look very nice on screen. When you tune in, there's a lot of colors, very bright. It's a very bright show, and so I wasn't expecting production to be lackluster at all. And a lot of drone shots on Monday Night Raw, Lee. Lots and lots of drone shots. They have found one of their new favorite techniques. And I gotta say, if you've got a building filled with 17,000 people, utilize that as much as you can. So we got a couple of drone shots. And then, in terms of the opening of the show, talking about that video that they played, the history of professional wrestling, essentially, that they played over the curtains. And they showed, everything from the Greeks wrestling to heading forward to Gorgeous George, to Bruno Sammartino, and then to Hogan, and kind of relaying that and using terms like shoot and work and heel and babyface totally freaks some people out. Oh my God, we're using insider terms in the video. Pew pew, get excited.
Did you just pew pew?
Yeah,
me?
shoot.
No.
Pew pew.
Don't pew pew me. No.
That's also Cesaro's thing back in WWE,
Yes.
the pew pew little gun thing he would do.
I know, Doc, and that's why I dislike it so much.
I see. Now it's starting to add up in my head why you didn't like the pew pew.
Mm-hmm.
But the opening video I thought was nice. I found it kind of laughable. They called it a cold open because that's not what a cold open is. But
At all.
like not even close. But
So and just before you continue, I heard about this cold open and we kind of got a little, preview of it beforehand. I'm like, That is not a cold open. I don't understand why it was. I'm going to be old man, get off my lawn here. So I don't understand. I don't understand, Zach. Anyway, go ahead.
I didn't really understand it either. I did get a laugh because WrestleVotes tweeted out about the cold open as well, and it read like something out of a press release sent straight from Titan Towers. Told tonight's historic cold open. Did you feel like it was an historic cold open when you're watching this?
Zach, if it wasn't a cold open, it couldn't have been a historic cold open. It's got to be the latter before the beginning, right?
Right.
You can't add the adjective of historic to something that isn't.
Right. It's true.
Okay.
It's true.
Get off my lawn.
There might be a couple more of that on this episode here, Lee, as a little foreshadowing. But yeah, they showed the video, and then they had Triple H, noted camera shy Triple H, under a spotlight, of course.
Noted camera shy. Wow.
That's right. Did you hear Cody at Mania? He's very camera shy. He doesn't want to be in front of the crowd. Lee, he just wants to be backstage writing up his stories and booking shows. Doesn't want to be at the forefront at all. He was under a spotlight, Lee. Anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was... And then Triple H, he got the opening pop. He introduced us to this new era. But I gotta say, visually, I thought it looked good. You know, I liked some of the different camera shots that they were doing. Obviously, they were really hyping it up. We're on Netflix. So I thought in terms of the opening, you know, the opening stuff with Triple H, you know, jokes aside about how, you know, very camera shy, but yet under a spotlight, and everything else going in.
You keep getting that in, don't you?
I got to make sure that people know, you know?
Yeah, you just keep throwing it in.
So, but it was a good little opening. I didn't think it didn't blow me away or anything like that, but it kind of set the pace, at least I thought, going into the Raw on Netflix. So.
Yeah, I think for me too. I didn't think it was overdone. I was very worried that it was going to be overdone. And I didn't find that myself when I was watching. So I just mean from the opening point of view. That's all.
Right.
So yeah, I think for me it was like that as well. Again, I watched on a TV that, I don't know how you say this. It's like a secondary TV in like where I am, and it doesn't get things as crisply and cleanly because it's getting kind of a secondary internet feed.
Okay.
And at first I was like, oh my God, this is terrible production. Not production. It's pixelating. I'm not getting to see it.
The stream quality.
Yeah, the stream quality. Yeah. And then, you know, I went back and saw some other stuff, and it wasn't as bad. I thought it could have been a little bit better, but you know, I think overall with some of the things that they've had drops and different things before, then it wasn't so bad. I still think with the streaming, when you have a lot of action happening at one time, yeah, it's 2025, but we still haven't perfected that yet.
Yeah.
From any, and that's maybe with a lot of, I talk about big events. I talk about the NFL. I talk about, you know, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. Talk about different things that are streaming. When you have a lot of action happening at one time, I still, you know, they're getting close. It's a lot better, but I don't think they've got to where they need to be, where it's like you're watching TV and you wouldn't notice a difference. You do notice a difference still with a lot of high flying action. So, but that's part of the deal. And so then the show opens, and of course The Rock comes out after the cold opening, and Zach, The Rock's promo and the first match with Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, and it's 9:00.
Yes. Yes. That's
Um,
that might be a point of emphasis throughout the show. Yeah.
So I think when you're trying to describe this, like, I totally understand. We talked about this in our last episode about the difference of what business is and what's good for business and what is good for me as a fan or you as a fan or good for the majority of business. But it only took the first hour of Monday Night Raw for me to go, we are way back, obviously very different, but similarities. We are way back to 1995. Because in 1995, both wrestling companies were pure sports entertainment. And what happened? The NWO happened, and the WWE didn't react right away. And then they reacted, and the Attitude Era, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and wrestling just became, it got out very quickly of the sports entertainment and got a little bit more into, you know, the 14 plus, the 18 plus sometimes, and just the quality of matches. And to sit there and think that while I didn't love everything about the last AEW pay-per-view, you're like, okay, well, when Will Ospreay and Okada are in the ring, and Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher are in the ring, this is brilliant professional wrestling. And what a stark contrast to the opening match on Monday Night Raw on Netflix for 4.9 million people around the globe to see.
That's right.
It's sports entertainment for sure, but it is nothing like a great professional wrestling match. I know we've talked ad nauseum about Roman Reigns and how slow he is sometimes watching his matches in the ring, but oh my God, when you put him in with somebody else that's also very slow and methodical and doesn't have that next gear. The reason I was somewhat okay with Roman Reigns' like methodical plodding along matches is because sometimes he would wrestle guys like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens that when they finally tuned it up could go in a 3, 4, 5 minute span. And you're like, okay, yeah, the match was half an hour, but you'd get 5 minutes, you'd get 7 minutes. I didn't get any minutes in this one with Solo and Roman.
No, very much not.
And just listening to, look, it's their broadcast, but listening to kind of the fans and the commentary about how great this is. I'm like, what are you watching? What is it that you're watching? And it doesn't mean that it's not the right thing to do for business. I get it. Like, I understand the storyline perspective here. And that's the part that gets over. But nothing about this whole show was good professional wrestling.
No.
And it started off in that first match. I couldn't believe it. I turned around, it's 9 o'clock. And I don't watch Monday Night Raw minute to minute every Monday. So I do get to fast forward some of it. But I was watching this one live and I turned around and it's 9 o'clock. I'm like, they've done a Triple H promo in one match.
And a Rock promo.
Yeah, and a Rock promo.
Which, to call the Rock promo really a promo is kind of being generous. Because it felt more like we were dropped into a business conference and we were learning how there's great successes of WWE on Netflix. Lee, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, I can't believe I haven't brought this up before because this is not the first time this has happened. But The Rock talk about how this was the all-time gate at the arena.
Oh my God.
And the fans cheered. What?
So Zach, I thank you, Zach, because you are finally coming into the mindset of Lee Versage. You are finally, I can set you free now. After 5 long years, Zach, I can set you free because you are thinking the right way. Praise the Lord. He has finally come around.
Oh man.
They said this on TV and out loud. I'm like, what? You said it's the largest gate in the history of the WWE. So basically telling we have ripped off 17,000 people. And by the way, with the amount of celebrities that they showed in the crowd, you think those celebrities paid for those tickets?
Oh God, no.
Who paid for those tickets?
The fans in the upper bowl.
Okay, so then we're talking about like 15,000 people because there's at least 2,000 celebrities that didn't pay for their tickets. And now 15,000 are cheering that they have been ripped off more than any other wrestling fan in the world.
It's so funny.
Oh my God.
I couldn't believe it. And this is not the first time this has happened, too. I tried to defend the fans and just say, look, enjoy what you... But you make it tough when you're cheering for that. I gotta say. That's a tough defense right there, Lee.
I'm cheering for the fact that I paid more than any other person that's ever gone to a professional wrestling event before. I did.
Woo! I spent $800 to be here. Yeah!
Oh my, I can't believe they cheered it. I literally paused it and lost my mind. So the fact that you brought that up, we have not talked about this previously.
Oh.
I'm so happy you brought that up.
Oh, that was so... I'm like, I couldn't believe it. And then that Rock promo as well. So I'm sitting there, it's like, all right, we're starting things off. We're going to set some programs for Mania, right? We're going to establish some things right off the jump, right? And he points out Cody Rhodes in the crowd. For some reason, Cody Rhodes was in the crowd. He was standing around off in the corner, I guess. And The Rock said, Cody, great job on leading this company. Great job, my brother. And then they do the cheer, and then he referenced his mom, like this promo stuff last year. He's like, great job, Cody. Good stuff. You're doing a great job leading this company. It's like, oh, okay. I guess we're not doing Cody Rock this year. Or at all, the way that they did that angle. I was like, okay, well, we have blown up that story. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess we're going to go a different direction. We'll see where Dwayne's going to go. And then immediately after that, if you notice, he kind of blew up the next match because he said, I acknowledge Roman Reigns as my tribal chief. Like, oh, okay. Well, we're not doing Roman Reigns versus The Rock either, I guess. So he came out. He put over the Netflix executives, the WWE executives. He put over the fans a bit. He put over Cody. He said, great to see you all, and then left. And that was a 25-minute promo. 25 minutes dedicated to saying, the Netflix execs are great. The WWE execs are great. This is a new era of WWE. Hey, Cody, how's it going? Doing a great job there, pal. Despite the fact I beat you to a bloody pulp last year outside of the van. But let's just ignore that. And let's just move on and have a great show, everybody. Oh, and by the way, this is the largest gate in WWE history. We took all the money from you, and so we're going to celebrate with the executives. All right, see y'all later. And then walk to the back. 25 minutes to go through this.
Well, the only defense I can have for that is having The Rock out for 25 minutes at the beginning of a Netflix program is a major coup for Netflix.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I know why they would do it. I know why they would do it. It's just hilarious that I was just watching a pep rally for the company, essentially, for 25 minutes.
Well, don't worry. We got to the fact that Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, who both took forever to get out, who both plodded around the ring, like... Anyway.
Yeah. And then, of course, all the interferences as well, and I think that's what you're about to bring up.
Yeah, I was. And... it's just the same old thing we've seen 100 times. And I said in the last show that it would be the right thing to do to put Solo over. Now, I don't know. I guess I assumed The Rock at some point was going to be involved, and maybe he's just not going to be involved at all. But regardless, I don't understand Roman Reigns going over here. I just don't. Like, in the moment on Netflix to establish a star in a vacuum, you can sell me on it. But At what point am I ever going to take Solo Sikoa seriously again? I just don't. Unless The Rock comes back and kind of double crosses and gets back involved, nothing Solo Sikoa can do at this point on his own can get me back to thinking that he's a serious, legitimate contender.
Yeah. The only other reason I could think of was when The Rock came out at the end and did the face-off with Roman Reigns. Said, okay, maybe this is, he's psyched everybody out, and now we're actually going to do the Roman Reigns Rock program, and that's why Roman won. It's like, okay, they got to establish Roman with a big win on Netflix so that he could set up for a program with The Rock. But then he just did the embrace, and he put the Ula Fala onto Roman Reigns, and that was it. It was like, all right, I guess we are not doing that program officially. And the match itself, I mean, you've watched like all of Roman's matches. You've seen this one. The interferences as well. I mean, there's not much I could really say at this point. It's just the same talking points I've said about this. It's just he's very slow. He's very methodical. I'd be okay with methodical if the moves meant something a little bit more in the match. Like if it was like work, like I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, you gotta work a hold, brother. Like it's 1976. But if they're targeting like a body part or something, or try to build up to it in a match, then that'd be one thing. It's like, okay, at least they're trying to make the match engaging. But it wasn't really. It was just, we're going to do this spot, we're going to do this spot, and everybody's just waiting for the run-ins at this point because it's tribal combat, and that's the precedent that they've set with this match. It's like, who's going to run out next?
By the way, Michael Cole going ape crap over the fact, this is only the second tribal combat rules match ever in the WWE. What? I don't care. Like, is it the first one? No? Okay, then I'm done. Like,
you've seen this match before,
but only once.
Only one time before.
Oh my God.
Subscribe to Netflix so you can go watch that match.
Okay, so Roman Reigns beats Solo Sikoa, and we move on, and John Cena comes out.
Yep.
And this whole, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I'm going to be able to, but now, and all of a sudden he turns it around and starts talking about the Royal Rumble. It's like, oh my God. I just, is it a foregone conclusion to you that he's winning the Royal Rumble?
I've been calling it since like November, October that he's going to win the Rumble. So yes.
Okay.
So this wasn't exactly new information for me when I was watching.
Yeah, but it confirmed how much it took away from my excitement of the Royal Rumble. How about that?
Because you know he's going to win.
Well, I look, you always know that 30 people can't win it, and only 4 or 5 people, hopefully, if it's a good Royal Rumble, 4 or 5 people have a legitimate shot at winning. I don't want one legitimate shot at winning.
Right.
And right now, we have one. And I'll give them a little bit of trust where it's possible he loses. And he loses because somebody costs him, he gets involved with Gunther somehow, where Gunther costs him the match and he ends up getting a shot at WrestleMania anyway to the World Heavyweight Championship and not the WWE Championship. I'm open to that. I'm hopeful for that. But at the same time, they're still going to make it the second biggest thing that's happening at the Rumble. So that's worst case scenario is he's second biggest story at the Rumble.
Yeah.
And that's hopeful on my part that they even do something like that. But we'll see. I'm going to give them a little bit of leniency to hope that John Cena does not win the Royal Rumble. And they get him, if they want to get him in a title match at WrestleMania, fine, do it another way. You got 2 main titles. Only one person can win the Royal Rumble. So figure it out.
Well, unfortunately, I think your hopes will be dashed as soon as Cena wins the Rumble in a few weeks. So,
Okay.
but I'm telling you, I've been saying it since November, so I won't go too crazy on it. But I think that's just how they view it. This is a chance to have a story throughout the year that Cena could do, and that's go after the 17th World Championship before he retires, and that will get people invested.
But don't you think if he's hanging on till December 2025, that it's more of a story than just 3 months until WrestleMania?
Potentially, and have his last match be a world title match?
Yes.
I could see that too. And you know what? They could do the story where he loses at Mania, and then you have him, build himself back up and have one last match as his retirement match. But I am also aware how this company operates, where they love their moments. And what bigger moment, Lee? Think of the storytelling, Lee. You got to think of it through that lens. You can't think through the wrestling bubble. You got to think through the storytelling lens. And the storytelling lens here is the 17th World Championship win at WrestleMania, and the big moment with the fireworks and the pyro. You got to think about moments here, Lee, because that's how they focus on it.
I know, but at least let me throw a curveball at you.
Sure.
When I say that, if you're going to retire, what's the last, and I'm not talking about Bryan Danielson because we're not sure that he's gone.
Right.
Who's the last guy to retire on a big stage?
Sting?
Yep. What happened in that match?
He won his match.
And won a championship.
Yep.
I think that there's some people out there going, man, that would be the coolest way to go out ever. And if they can do it for Sting in AEW, they certainly could do it for John Cena in WWE. Give him a underdog. He actually can't do it. He questions himself throughout the year. And then finally earns another shot at the end of the year. And you could also sell another pay-per-view. That doesn't have to be like you could sell any pay-per-view you want if John Cena is getting a world title shot in his last match near the end of the year. Could you not?
You could.
I'm just doing a quick scroll here. Let me see if I can find the pay-per-view calendar here for the WWE. And I'm just going to go towards the end of the year to see what's announced. I don't know that they have other things announced. They have SummerSlam announced in East Rutherford, New Jersey for 2 nights.
Yep.
I would be interested to see at some point when they book the cities where that would be. That would interest me a lot. Like down Survivor Series and what's their December pay-per-view?
Their last December pay-per-view, I guess, was technically Survivor Series War Games, even though it was late November. They didn't really have a December pay-per-view this past year, so.
Right. Okay. Anyway, I'd be interested to see the cities and whether Boston would be one.
Yep.
That they would consider near the end of the year. That's all. Okay.
Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Okay, yeah, we know it won't be because they're going there in January in 2026.
They do 2 shows in Saudi Arabia a year, so get excited, Lee, for the big title win in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Get excited.
Get
excited. Listen, I was really excited to see like 1 and 4 Liv Morgan defend her championship.
Yes.
In her 5 title defenses. She's the champion, but she's 1 and 4. She's got to go to 2 and 4, right? No, Nope. Rhea Ripley wins the WWE Women's World Championship. I hated everything about this. I don't have anything positive to say. The Undertaker coming out at the end didn't make any sense to me at all. I didn't enjoy any of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite even understand it. But that's just me. I don't know where Liv Morgan goes from here. If you were building this whole thing up, was I on the edge of my seat that Rhea Ripley was finally going to be able to beat Liv Morgan? No, she pins her all the time. Like, every time she wrestles her, she beats her. So,
yeah.
Nope. So I don't have a ton to say about this one.
Yeah, me neither. Rhea won. They built up to, Dominic getting kicked in the groin at the end after Rhea won the match. So this was supposed to be a heated blow-off, Lee, and I use heated blow-off in quotes. And Rhea won. All I could say is I'm happy. I'm hopeful that we can move on from this program and Rhea Ripley could do something else. I am worried that Raquel Rodriguez or Raquel Gonzalez or whatever her name is will keep this feud going as a sort of a bridge in between to the next feud for Rhea. But we got that. And as you mentioned with Undertaker, one would think, the Undertaker, known gothic gimmick. Rhea Ripley, gothic gimmick. So what should we do? Let's have Undertaker come out in his motorcycle gimmick and not be the gothic cowboy dead man. And have him ride the motorcycle around the ring, go out, do the pose at the end, and then he can just drive off. Okay. I'm glad that Mark Calloway got a payday, I guess, on the Raw on Netflix debut. So good for him.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I don't really have much thoughts on this match. This match, by the way, started at 9:30, Lee. This was the second match of the 3-hour program, and this second match started at 9:30.
Yeah. The only thing I will say about this match that I really didn't like, I do think it's important to be realistic when you're having matches like this. And look, it's not easy with Rhea Ripley because, quite frankly, her strength and her build is just so much bigger and stronger than all of a lot of the other women's wrestlers. And that's not to say that Raquel Rodriguez or when Charlotte Flair comes back or but with some of the other wrestlers, it's just not quite as believable.
Yep.
Liv Morgan is one of those. And while I respect a great deal the Mercedes Moné tribute to Eddie Guerrero, in no world ever could Liv Morgan suplex Rhea Ripley, have the strength on the ground to hold it, turn her over on the ground, right into suplex number 2, turn her over, and do it again a third time. When they are lying on the mat, they're both having their backs on the mat after suplex number 1. Do you know how difficult it would be to turn anybody over lying in that position?
Be tough.
Anybody, let alone someone who's twice as big as you are. And I commend Rhea Ripley because I thought she did the spot very well to get it over. But that was just a spot to get the Eddie Guerrero thing in. It was not realistic that Liv Morgan could ever do that to Rhea Ripley, ever. Because most people couldn't do that regardless. But if you're going, if Rhea Ripley did that to Liv Morgan, yeah, I would believe it. She absolutely could have the strength to do that.
Yep.
Not the other way around.
No.
So again, it's just not a good match.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy the Mid-Morgan sign being ripped away.
Yes.
I did enjoy that. But
classic heel heat there.
It was, yeah.
That was very pro wrestling, shockingly enough.
Yeah. And I came to find out that was a plant.
Oh, great. I didn't know that. Oh,
Anyway,
come on.
yeah. So we have that, and then we have another video of The Rock, which is good because we hadn't seen him in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, you have to remember The Rock is on this show.
Yeah, about how he's going to appear on NXT. Oh, super.
Yeah. Did you see the video, by the way, of Triple H trying to reach out for the handshake with The Rock and The Rock totally ignoring him?
Yep.
It was great.
Incredible.
If you know the heat between those two, it makes it even better. So that was great to watch.
Then we get Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre.
At 10 o'clock?
Match number 3.
Yes. Oh, before we get to the match, we should also mention that Chad Gable wanted to get the best luchador for next week. He specifically wanted a luchador.
Pentagon?
That's what it seems like. There was that promo video that said Penta on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it really could be anybody, Lee. It could be anybody. But I'm thinking Penta. He wants a luchador. There was a 0 that had a line across it. Man, it really could be anyone, Lee. I don't know.
Okay, Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre. I didn't mind the match. I especially didn't mind it because at least I was surprised. I don't agree with Jey Uso winning, but I was surprised that he won. So at least they got me a little bit. Quite frankly, I'm 0 for 2. Or sorry, 1 for 3.
There you
go. I knew Rhea Ripley was going to win, but
yeah,
I'm 1 for 3 on who's going to win because I thought Solo Sikoa would win, and I thought that Drew McIntyre would win. So I got to give them that they, even a staunch fan like me, they had me going a little bit, but I'm not sure they had me going for the right reasons. What do you think of Jey Uso going over Drew McIntyre?
Surprised me. I also was thinking Drew McIntyre was going to get the victory. I thought the match, here's the thing with Jey Uso. He has this great entrance. People love yeeting. They love yeeting so much. They love the dance along, and heck, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee were also dancing along on the commentary booth, making yeeting jokes at how they were just yeeting all over the place. Incessantly, I might add, to the point where it's like, okay, I got it. I know what the joke is. I heard it. I know you're on Netflix. I hear you, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. Also, Travis Scott coming to the ring with the blunt in his hand was also hilarious. But nonetheless, but when Jey Uso, he has the entrance, everybody's going crazy, right? And then the match happens, and it feels like the crowd, there's some sort of sound dimmer, where all of a sudden people realize, oh, he's gonna wrestle now, and they go silent.
Yeah.
And there was a point in the match when I think they were going up to the top rope. It was Drew and Jey Uso, and I swear to God, I thought I could hear a pin drop. It was so quiet, and I was like, man, this is why I have an issue when people say that Jey Uso is this main event guy. Just because they tell you he's a main event guy doesn't mean he is one. He has the entrance, but tell me a Jey Uso match, singles match, any singles match, Lee, where you're like, that's a guy, where that's a main event guy right there.
Yeah, no, you want to be able to say that, and you never can.
No. I mean, I enjoy the entrance. It's a cool visual, and people are dancing along, and the fans are having fun, and that's great. But then the match happens, and he doesn't have the main event charisma. He just doesn't. And so I thought this match felt lifeless at points, and the result did surprise me. Jey Uso getting the victory. Where that will lead to, I don't know, but it certainly got me, so I got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to lead to either, and I still have hopes for Drew McIntyre that they're going to do something significant with him and not just be in this, I don't want to call him a mid-carder, but never a world title guy. I don't want him to be that. So we'll see. I'm hopeful that he still is going to be, it feels like he's important to them, and then I see a match like this, it's like, but we just want to put Jey over. It's fun. The crowd will go home happy.
That's right.
And I'm like, okay. You probably should put Drew McIntyre over, but it's fine. Like if they have better plans for him, I just think he's one of the bright spots. But speaking about bright spots, Zach, speaking about bright spots.
Yes.
So I feel very I'm on the polar opposites of feelings when it comes to what happened next. And if you were to divide my feelings into like there's the East End and there's the West End and then there's the middle. I got 50% that's on the very, very, very East End. And then the 50% that's on the very, very, very West End. Hulk Hogan comes out with Jimmy Hart. Real American beer. Oh my God. Oh my God. So, Zach, I know you probably, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about this. I'm going to be succinct here. At first, I was like off my couch, cheering incessantly, going, "This is so great." I couldn't have wanted anything more other than as Hulk Hogan saying and thanking the fans for sticking with him, and they are booing him out of the building. I'm like, these people have woken up. Somebody has woken up, and we are finally in the we don't need to see this guy anymore stage. And I hope that he thought it was going to be different. I hope genuinely in his bones when he came out thinking that he's a legend and one of the greatest that's ever done it, I hope he was legitimately surprised at the venom that was spewed properly towards Hulk Hogan. So that's 50% of me. I was elated as to the response of people booing Hulk Hogan out of the building as he is selling his beer and thanking the fans and doing his thing. It's like, you are a moron. And you are one of the worst things that's happened to professional wrestling. Even though you've sold more tickets than any other person in the history of the business, which you can't take away, and your name will forever go down as synonymous with the world of professional wrestling, you were a stain on this business. But suddenly, Zach, it's like when your team does well and it's the fourth quarter and they've scored that insurance touchdown. They're up 14. 2.5 minutes to go. What could go wrong? All of a sudden, I had that moment, Zach, that my team might have won the game still. They held on. They actually won by 7 with the other team having the ball at their 2-yard line, but they didn't score, so they won. I had that moment because it occurred to me very quickly that the WWE and their brass were listening to the venom spewed at Hulk Hogan. And I had that, oh my God, thought. They're going to bring him back as a heel, and he's going to be on my television screen more than I thought. Oh my God. So that's how I felt after Hulk Hogan got booed out of the building. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on the Hulkster coming out.
This is my favorite part of the show. I loved this so much. Not because it was good or anything like that. Because it wasn't. It was just, shilling the beer. Right? Yep. And it's like, and shilling that Raw is on Netflix, which, by the way, I don't know if you're aware, but Raw is on Netflix. Get excited. But it was hilarious watching Hulkster trying to get through this promo and realizing the fans were not on his side.
Nope.
I could see the gears turning, Lee, when he was trying to cut that promo, he's like, "Oh, brother, they're not cheering for me, dude. Let me try and talk about Randy Savage here. Let's see if that gets a pop." It's like, "When I was wrestling with Randy Savage, dude, boo! Oh, brother, that's not working. Let's try Andre the Giant, dude. Let's see if that happens. And when I was body slamming Andre the Giant, boo!" Well, I've lost them, so might as well just chill in the beer, and that probably got the loudest boos because it's the fans realize, all right, I've given up. I'm just gonna chill the beer here and get out of here. It was so awesome, so great. I am so glad the fans almost made up for the fact that they cheered for how much money they paid for the show earlier. They almost made up for it. I loved it. And then yeah, Hulkster getting booed, and now WWE even better has an ownership stake in the beer. So they are committed to this. So love seeing that they are committed to it. Hulk Hogan, you mentioned all the wrestling stuff, and also the guy that refuses to apologize for getting caught on tape saying the N-word, and his comments about African Americans. And when he did try to apologize, he tried to say, "Brother, you don't want to get caught on tape, dude. That's not what you want to do." Totally missing the point of what the apology should have been. All the times he's lied over the years. All the times he's backstabbed people to keep in a spot. Finally, Lee, vindication after all these years. And not only that, this happened on the debut episode on Netflix, where all the Netflix executives were watching, all the WWE execs were watching, all these fans were tuning in worldwide watching. Karma, baby. You gotta love it.
Oh, I loved it.
So
now,
great. My favorite part of the show.
Did you have the same fear? Did you have the same fear that I did, that they are going to turn this into heel Hogan and that we're not done with him?
Oh, I did you see that Daily Mail report about that? Is like,
no.
Oh, Daily Mail had a source, I could only imagine who it would be, talking about the reaction that Hogan got and said, "Oh, well, maybe in the future he could lean into it. Like, this is a new opportunity." I believe the source's name is Terry. I could be wrong. But it really could be anybody, but I'm going to guess it's a guy named Terry. And he's like, "Oh, in the future they could bring me back, or sorry, Hulk Hogan back, and they could lead into it and be a heel because Hogan just wasn't ready for it. And if he knew it was coming, then he could be prepared for it." So I hope to God they don't look at this as like, hey, we could bring him back as a heel, put the NWO colors. I hope they don't, and I hope the fans don't, buy into that. It's like, okay, it's fun to boo him now, right? And turn into that. Because then all the respect I had for the fans after that would just plummet once again.
I know, and that's my fear. That is absolutely my fear, that they're going to use that and go, "Oh, we just want reactions, positive or negative. We just want reactions."
And can I say this too? I've seen some people saying, and I apologize for being a little political here, but I've seen some people saying that, oh, it's because they were in a blue state and all the stuff that Hogan's done with Trump. I'm telling you, Mark Calloway was on this show earlier, Undertaker, and Out Republic. He got cheers. It's because Hogan's I'll keep it PG for the audio, but he's a jerk. He's not the greatest human being in the world. That's why they booed him.
Yep. And you're right. Nothing to do with political, because the Undertaker, a pretty big name in the world of professional wrestling, is even more on that side. And he still got cheers. So that is just not the case. All right. Main event time. CM Punk and Seth Rollins. What did you think of the match?
I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was an instant classic like Michael Cole said on commentary. I didn't think this was one of the biggest singles matches in the history of WWE, like what Michael Cole was saying. But I thought it was all right. The problem I have with it is that this was a feud literally from day one that Punk entered the company. This was a feud that they were building up, right? With Rollins getting mad that he was there, and this was initially going to be the Mania match this past year. And so all of that, right? All this heat that they've been building up, these two don't like each other. Now they're going to come to blows, and it's going to be on the debut episode of Netflix. I didn't feel like this was a very heated match, to be quite honest with you. This kind of felt like they tried to get it heated at first because they did the hockey fight spot at the beginning, the Don Fra Yoshihiro Takayama spot, but then it just kind of turned into a professional wrestling match. And look, I love being a professional wrestling match, Lee, as people know from listening to the show. But in terms of what they were going for, I wish it could be a bit more heated, and I put that more on Rollins, because I've seen time and time again with Punk, a guy that knows what the feud is about and is going to make sure that it is a heated feud, a heated rivalry, right? But every time I've seen with Rollins, whenever he's in a heated feud, I think back to a couple years ago when he had that feud with Matt Riddle, and that was supposed to be this heated feud. It got personal, and then they went out there and just had a match. So I just don't know if Rollins has that killer instinct to put some heat into his matches and make it like a heated blood feud kind of match. So I watched this, and I didn't think this was a bad match. I thought it was an all right match. I was expecting more, though, especially with the way that they built this up and the way that it had been promoted. I was hoping for a lot more, but this felt pretty definitive. I thought the finish was absolutely corny as hell. I did not like the finish with Seth, taking the GTS, bouncing off the ropes, doing a spin in between, and then landing on the shoulders of CM Punk. Like, I thought that was like incredibly dorky, and it just confirms my thoughts about Rollins. Not the biggest fan of his when he's on the screen, but the finish was very dorky, but otherwise the match itself was all right. I didn't think it was anything spectacular or instant classic or an all-time great match.
Yeah, look, that's Michael Cole's job to put it over.
I know,
especially in that spot. So you're not going to get. It's the way the world is going. It's the way that all hockey, football, baseball teams ever listen to their broadcast, their home broadcast. They're just so biased now. So I don't. That's Michael Cole's job. I don't have to take him seriously because he says it. It's my job as a fan to cut through the bull crap.
Yep.
And I know it's not an instant classic. I don't care if he's telling me that or not. Especially on the debut episode on Netflix. If you didn't know, they were on Netflix for the first time.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize. I wish they emphasized that throughout the show.
I know.
Yeah.
So couple things here. Number one, Punk winning that decisively in the main event on the debut show tells me that he's going to be a player coming up at the Rumble and coming up at WrestleMania. Especially with The Rock looking like he's not going to be involved. That to me thrusts CM Punk even further into the spotlight. Now, I'm sure you're aware, you thought the finish was corny as hell. Look, I don't know CM Punk from a hole in the ground, but sometimes I think I know. You know what I mean, Zach?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of, you get an idea of what a person's about by their actions.
Right. I was just going to ask, if you knew of, can you ask him what happened at Brawl Out and try and get some details?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get that info.
Yeah, the part I think that's really interesting and doesn't surprise me, if I know Punk like I think I know Punk, and people have pointed it out, I'm certainly not the first one. I'm only doing it because I thought it at the time, and then I read all about it afterwards. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot of people on the same page as me. CM Punk won the world title in AEW. How did he win it? And who did he beat?
Beating Hangman Page.
Yep. And he won the world title in AEW. And along the way, who did he beat? Beat John Moxley. Go back and watch the finish of the John Moxley CM Punk match in AEW.
Yep.
It is very, very similar.
Yeah, I was directed to me. I did see that finish. And
now, Yeah. Now, it's not the fact that the two finishes were the same. It's the who it was.
Yep.
It's John Moxley. It's Seth Rollins. And if you're CM Punk, are you beating Roman Reigns and taking out the entire Shield in the same way in the main event? Is that what's happening? Is he going to beat Roman Reigns the same way he beat John Moxley and Seth Rollins?
Maybe.
I say yes. I don't think it's a coincidence that you win the match. He's only ever, okay, I shouldn't say that because I don't know all of the matches for CM Punk, but he's only ever won the high profile matches against Moxley and Seth Rollins in that fashion. I don't recall seeing that finish, that exact same finish against any other wrestler except for those two. If our fans know, or if you know, tell me I'm wrong.
Not that I'm aware of.
So if I know Punk like I think I know Punk, he's been gone for so long. They finally brought him back. CM Punk loves the power and he loves the one-upmanship. He loves to feel like he's the guy on top, getting the last word. He loves it, doesn't he? He loves it. He can't. Sometimes I don't think he can take himself out of the spotlight that way. I think there's a direct correlation from beating Moxley that way to beating Seth Rollins that way to then coming up and beating Roman Reigns that way. Now, whether it's for the title or not, I don't know. But mark my words, he is beating Roman Reigns in that fashion in 2025. CM Punk winning the match, where do you think that places him? Without everything that you saw at this Raw, which is like only 4 matches or whatever it is.
Yep.
It cost me, what was the running time?
It was a little over 3 hours.
Yeah. It wasn't the 3:46 that I thought I was going to get.
Yeah, 3.5. I was locked in for that, man. I was waiting for it. And
I know.
I'm glad they kept to the 3 hours because I don't know what the additional half hour would have been.
Anyway, just the way that The Rock kind of took himself out of the picture a little bit. And CM Punk got thrust into the picture. I don't know. Feels like he's going to put himself in the top spot and beat those guys, but we'll see. Where do you think this puts Punk here in the next little bit?
Definitely up in the upper echelon, I can tell you that. I bet you Punk is super happy that The Rock is not going to be wrestling at Mania this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's very ecstatic about that because now he can get at that WrestleMania main event that he has been coveting for the longest time. So this definitely puts him in as one of the key players. Obviously, as you mentioned, getting the victory on Raw. And yes, I did see that finish with Moxley and whatnot. And that could be something. I wouldn't rule it out. Punk is one of those guys that would think at that sort of level and try to appeal to fans on that way, in tying it back to the Shield. So I wouldn't rule it out. I would ask Punk to maybe be a little closer to the ropes when Seth Rollins is being dinged off the ropes, but like he was with Moxley, that way it doesn't look like. And maybe Rollins shouldn't spin when he's on the way to be landing on his shoulders. But I digress. Possible, but he definitely cements him as one of the key players heading into. And they have the built-in stuff right with Heyman and how Punk has did Heyman a favor, and now he's gonna reclaim on that favor. We'll see what that favor is, and there's certainly a built-in story if they wanted to go there as well.
Do you think this changes the main event? Okay, what do you think the main event now is at WrestleMania?
One night for sure, I'm thinking it's gonna be Cena, and I think it's gonna be Cena Cody. I was initially going Cena Gunter because I felt like that was the easiest one that they could do.
Mm-hmm.
But if The Rock's not in there, then that takes away that matchup for Cody. So I think it's going to be Cena Cody, which, by the way, when Cena cut that promo, was the same thing as when Vince did that promo after he bought WCW and was, kind of doing a name check on people. You want to see Lex Luger in the WWF. And so it was kind of like that. But I think they're doing Cena Cody because they will want Cody in a prominent spot. And I think there would be some intrigue, as we've talked about in the past with Cody, in terms of how he's been selling merchandise and how he's kind of taken on that Cena role in the last little bit. I think there's some intrigue there. And I think the other one would be Punk Roman, based on who's involved in the main event. So I think that's what the matches are looking like at this point.
So let me just ask you, because I actually completely agree with you. Unfortunately, I completely agree with you. And I think you could have Cena lose to Cody and build himself back up throughout the year.
Yep.
I would never have Cena be going over on Cody. That's the problem at WrestleMania. Never happened. So I would throw at least one other scenario at you to see whether it's possible. Now, this is just me coming up with option B because I do agree. I wrote this down, or I didn't write it down. I don't write a lot of things down because I have a superior memory to a lot of people.
That's right.
But I can totally remember what happened in 1989. But yesterday, Zach is getting
all blur.
very, very tough. But I knew that if we agreed, and you're a smart guy, so you'd probably agree with me, that I needed another option to throw at you. So I will throw out, whether you think this is a viable 2-night main event, Cena and Gunther on night number 1, Cody, Roman, and Punk in a 3-way for the WrestleMania main event.
I wouldn't rule it out. I personally wouldn't like it because you know how I feel about 3-ways in the main event. We got a lot of those, but
at least you could go in. Like if you get Punk and Roman on night number 1, I'm intrigued at who's going to win, but it's not for a title.
Yep.
So that's fine. It doesn't have to be. But now you're telling me that Gunther is going to be facing who? And now whoever that match is, even I'm assuming it still will be Gunther, but like now your World Heavyweight Championship is at least number 3 on the card. At least.
Yep.
And I can have a convincing argument of all 3 of those guys winning the world title. Cody, like if Cena faces Cody, no chance Cena's winning. No chance. Because to me, it's got Cena sitting there in the ring like Cody sat there 2 years ago with that dumb look on his face. Like, I can't believe this happened. And here comes the underdog story, just like Cody coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the same storyline. They'll just jam it in 2025.
Yep.
I just don't think Cody's ever losing to John Cena. And so now you're having Punk and Roman not for a belt, and then you're having a match, like both matches for your world title. I don't know that I'm that involved in. At least you could sell me at being emotionally invested that Roman or Punk or Cody could win that match. You could sell me on all 3. I wouldn't love Roman winning, but you could sell me on the fact that he's going to.
Mm-hmm.
So I threw that out there because it's something that I would be more emotionally invested in. That's all.
Yep.
And it still gives Cena a main event moment. I'm just trying to brush off Cena in the main event here somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I know. How about I throw this out there, and it's not going to be a scenario you would like,
Okay.
but I'm more putting it out there as a hypothetical. So we know
Hogan comes in and throws Cena out of the Rumble and wins the Rumble.
Yeah, he drops the leg, he gets the 1, 2, 3, and he gets the belt, brother, and he fully embraces the heel turn, and we're getting Hulk Hogan in the main event in 2025.
Okay.
How about Because I do think there is a chance of Cena beating Cody, but only if they've kind of been teasing it a little bit with Cody maybe eventually turning heel.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be a catalyst for Cody to turn heel?
Yeah, I don't think you can turn heel off the back of a guy that's retiring more than. See, to me, if Cody's going to turn heel, he's got to have a baby-faced Roman, right? Like a strong character that he's going to go up against. I just don't feel like if Cody turns heel, he's a bigger star than John Cena is as the world champion, because everyone knows Cena's leaving. So that doesn't do a lot for me for Cody turning heel off of John Cena, as opposed to an established big time star like Roman Reigns. I don't really know where that puts CM Punk. I still don't know if he's going full babyface or tweener but look, maybe we should just wrap up instead of continuing to speculate, wrap up the Netflix. There's a couple of people I watched the show, and after the show, after I got mad at the fact there were only 4 matches and Hogan and there's no good professional wrestling really on the card. I did wonder aloud, okay, where does this leave Drew McIntyre? Where does this leave Seth Rollins? And where does this leave Gunther, who didn't make the show?
Yeah.
So your world champion, Drew McIntyre, who you've been pushing huge, and you keep burying him at the time where you should be putting him over, and Seth Rollins are 3 pretty big people in your company. And I don't quite know where they all are right now.
Yeah. And that's kind of the problem I had with this Netflix show. Apologies for cutting you off, but that was one of my issues is like, if you're coming into this cold, like you're not you and I, Lee, we're not watching this week to week. We haven't, you're coming into this. I got a lot of messages from people that were watching this for the first time. A lot of them were wrestling fans that were wrestling fans of the past, but they haven't watched it in a while. They heard Raw was going to be on Netflix and said, all right, I'll tune in. This seems like a big addition to the show. If you're just tuning into this show, what do you really come away with when it comes to progression and storylines? You don't really come away with that much.
No.
Especially when you're establishing, like, this is the perfect opportunity for WWE to establish some arches, some story arches here about where they're going to go. The only real ones off the top of my head, and maybe you could fill in on some other ones, was Cena entering the Rumble and at least setting that path. However you feel about Cena, at least they established that path of what they're looking at, right? Everything else felt so definitive. Like, the Rock stuff is ending. However I feel about the Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley stuff, which is a lot, ended, right? The CM Punk Seth Rollins stuff ended. It was a lot of definitive endings for a show that I thought would be a starting point to kind of branch out and show what the future is going to look like for the next couple of weeks. And so if I'm somebody that's new that's tuning into this, or somebody that hasn't watched the product in a while that's tuning into this, I don't really have that much incentive to keep on watching what's going on in the next week. So I don't know. I didn't think it was a success at that point. And frankly, just watching the show, I mean, Lee, this was such a chore to get through at points. Like I understand we're going to get commercial breaks on this and in the States, and for Canadians, like, we're going to get some quote unquote exclusive stuff. Like, we're going to get interviews that might not be on the main broadcast. Like, there were a couple of those during the show. But man, pacing on this sucked. It just sucked. They really, really got to do better. They should have added 1 or 2 more matches. I understand it's television and you're going to have to, subside some of the wrestling to try and get some promos, but not at the expense of, like, there was an account called WWE Watch Times, because they've also been picking up on how the downtime is on these shows. And Lee, if you include promos and entrances, and I know some people might be a little fussy about that, but I include that as downtime. If you include promos and entrances, the downtime on the show is nearly 2 hours, and the actual wrestling itself was an hour in the 3-hour show.
Yeah.
On the pro wrestling show, there was an hour of it in the 3-hour show.
Mm-hmm. And was there that much going on in Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa?
Yeah,
anyway?
so you could talk off like 20 minutes of that as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't care which promotion it is. That's just unacceptable.
Yeah.
I'm not saying promos and entrances should be eradicated completely, especially on a TV show, but they don't have to make up, 2 hours of the show. Like, they could cut down entrances significantly. How long were they doing that Seth Rollins entrance before they cut to Punk?
Yeah.
They could cut down on stuff so significantly and get the point across the exact same way. They have a talented roster that they could rely on to put in good matches. So, I mean, it's the same point I made last year with a 55-minute rant. Like, there's just way too much downtime on these shows. At least make the wrestling a little bit important. Like, I know that's not the focus, but this was going to be the hot take I was going to bring into this, is that, and people might get a little bit of a jolt, but we are closer to Vince Russo's vision of pro wrestling than we are to an actual pro wrestling show.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just what I was saying at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
It's way more sports entertainment than it is pro wrestling.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
wrestling gets in the way. The only difference between Vince Russo's vision of pro wrestling and what this is that Vince Russo would make the matches a minute long, 2 minutes long. The matches are 20 minutes long. They feel that they could do an angle in between the matches in order to get their story across. I mean, look at how the crowds are reacting. It's when the matches actually happen, they're not that invested. They really aren't. And so we're a lot closer to Vince Russo's vision of pro wrestling on this show than we are to an actual pro wrestling show. So that's really some of the issues I had with this program. It's just, the downtime just sucked and the pacing just sucked, and I really don't think it's going to get that much better either. I think Netflix loves this sort of stuff because they have a lot of spots that they could throw commercials in and make some of their money back from the deal that they made with WWE. I just don't see it getting any better.
No, I would agree with you that that's kind of where we're headed. And prepare yourself. If that's what you want to watch, okay. And if you don't, I think this is sort of an advantage for some of the other companies around the world, because I think the products are getting further and further apart as opposed to getting closer together.
Yep.
So, and look, that doesn't mean the WWE is wrong from a business point of view of what they think is the best thing to do. But as a wrestling fan and purist, it's not my cup of tea and what I would like them to do. But there's still intrigue, and there's still, they brought out a lot of heavy hitters for this. And look, 4.9 million people did watch it. It was, according at least to Netflix and WWE, more people than watched the Squid Games, and it's the most watched television show on Netflix for a one-time television show that they've ever had. And that's what Netflix wanted, right?
Yep. I'm a little dubious of that, but they certainly got a lot of people tuned in. And look, I've always said too with these shows that AEW didn't get this when they went on HBO Max last week. But I always look at how these companies kind of put over the initial debut of the television. Like when Netflix put out a press release hyping it up, AEW did not get a press release hyping up their Max debut. Mm-hmm. So that says a lot, right? In terms of how the company, how Netflix and Turner would look at their programming. So I really think that means something, that Netflix said, okay, we're going to put out this press release and we're going to put out these numbers, and that to me shows a sign of that they're satisfied with what they've got with WWE so far. We'll see how it goes for the next couple of months and the next couple of years into this deal, but they're happy right now. So if you're WWE, you've got to be pretty happy with how things are going from a business sense.
And you just reminded me of one thing that that I wanted to tell people. So maybe you mentioned this before, but I just want to make sure for people, because I went through my PVR. The Discovery Channel, there's been a lot of new channels with new names. I shouldn't say new channels, just new names of the channels in Canada.
Yep.
Like HGTV's gone to the Home Network. Discovery Channel has gone to USA. So there's a USA network in Canada that really is the Discovery Channel. But on their television, they are going to show AEW Collision on Discovery Channel on the USA network, but something that you can get in Canada, which you didn't subscribe to TSN Plus before, you really didn't have an option. Unless you did it like Zach does and finds it in different places. But if you wanted to watch it on your TV, you really didn't have an option unless you subscribed to TSN Plus, a streaming service. Now you can go to what was formerly the Discovery Channel and now USA Network on my PVR, which I'm on the blue brand, only because I have to. It's the only brand I can get in the place I live.
You're an official SmackDown superstar. Congratulations, Mr. Versage.
I probably would like to find another provider, but
Yeah.
I can't. So on mine, I believe it's channel 1530 on the HD portion. But I was able to go through Saturday night, and AEW Collision is now going to be set in my PVR every week, where I don't have to go and find it to stream it. So I wanted to let people know that before we go.
Yeah, there you go. No, that's smart, because I might have mentioned it in passing, but not fully emphasize it. So yeah, so that's good as well for AEW to get that on TV, because
and plus we haven't really talked about. Maybe we'll talk about the next time. TNA is getting much more of a shot here in Canada on Sportsnet. Yep, Sportsnet 1. So I think that's great for them too, and it's great for the wrestling fan in Canada, because now you can find all your stuff on Netflix, the WWE. You can find on TSN and Discovery Channel and USA Network AEW stuff, and you can find your TNA wrestling on Sportsnet. So there's no reason for people not to be tuned in. There's probably more wrestling on now than there has been in years past,
for sure.
So that's a good thing for the TV viewer as we go into 2025. Zach, I hope that there would be a bigger to do about this show with something coming down the pike, but hopefully next time I talk to you. Okay. But this has been a very good episode, and great to talk to you again about Monday Night Raw on Netflix. It certainly caused a lot of people to talk, and I think that's a really good thing, regardless of what came out of it. There was some good publicity from it. So I'm glad that happened, because it makes the world of professional wrestling that much better.
For sure. Gets everybody engaged, and it's got a lot of conversation in during that show. So certainly got a lot of people talking. We'll see how it continues on in the next couple of months. So
for Zach McGibbon, I'm Lee Versage. Thanks for listening to This Is Wrestling.